Welcome to another episode of Film and Business. I'm your host, Rosa Camero, film producer, founder of Ramiro AI, the film marketing and distribution assistant that filmmakers need in their life. Today's episode is special. I'm joined by Gwen Alston, a woman I deeply admire and someone I had the pleasure of knowing since I was just starting my film business journey back in Madrid many years ago. Gwen was one of the first people I met in the industry who showed me that it means to build a real connection between a film and its audience. She's been doing this for decades. So let's talk a little bit more about Gwen. She's a seasoned impact producer and the co-founder of MocaMedia, an agency that specializes in outreach, marketing, and audience engagement for independent and social issues film. With over 30 years of experience across publishing, education, and global media, she has worked alongside her sister Angela and business partner Lisa Smithline since 2008 to support and elevate the work of filmmakers worldwide. She's originally from New York. She's been based in Europe for the last many, many years. Thank you for being here, Gwen. Thank you for accepting my invitation to Film and Business. To get things started, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and tell us what you do in your own words?
Well, thank you very much, Rosa, for having me. And it really is a pleasure to see you again in our different environments. And yeah, I think we met about 20 years ago. I was doing the math. And
20? No, that
I,
was 2017, I think.
oh, okay.
That's 10.
Okay. Okay. Well, it feels like 20. A lot has happened. A lot has happened.
Good things, I hope.
Yes, yes. Well, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay, in my own words, something about me. Well, I think you did it so well in the introduction, telling, about decades of work across medias. I started out in publishing, which I loved, and then I started out in New York in publishing, and then eventually in Madrid. I also ended up being a senior editor and director of foreign rights for a small academic press, and eventually decided to branch out on my own and start my own businesses. And I think that's where we ended up meeting when I was already in the throes of this third business, MocaMedia. But my first business was, interestingly, was a dating site, an online dating site that was to take you into real life really quickly. It was loosely based on a dating cafe that I was familiar with in New York City that I thought was just great because you could go into the cafe as a regular customer and then also go through a book where people had filled out a form saying what they were, who they were, and what they were looking for, and then you could have your first date in that cafe. And I thought this
Ay.
was a great idea. And as soon as internet, just as internet was starting off, I thought, well, why not do it online and then take people right into a cafe? So that was my first business, which went okay. I mean, we ended up doing speed dating events, and what I did was partner with several cafes around the city of Madrid, and it was fun. But I was three partners, and unfortunately, one of them, who was a very good friend of mine, died in that year, and I just didn't want to continue in that way. So moved on and went into making my own videos, I thought, wow, you know what? It might be really cool to do online marketing with short videos about businesses and people. And at the time, I mean, think about it. At the time, very few people were doing that. I mean, we were literally a group in Spain, about 20 people who were vloggers, who were doing these short videos and posting them online and marketing them. And I thought this would be a really good business for small business owners to be familiar with. And so I made this vlog online where I was doing short videos about small businesses, activities, special art people around the country in Spain. to give another idea of what Spain was about. So it wasn't just, sun and fun, but here are all these different ways in which you can enjoy the country. And at the same time, highlighting businesses, which then led into, being contracted to do corporate video and getting a crew together. And that morphed into eventually my working in outreach and marketing and impact with my sister in the third company, MocaMedia. So there you go.
It's not,
That's
uh,
my business trajectory in a
my
nutshell.
trajectory is more or less the same. I mean, it's not like one like I have a one business and the marketing agency, and then I decided to be a business coach, and then I came back to the film industry as a film producer. Now I have a startup, so it's not like yes, let's I have this idea, and it's like we are reinventing ourselves. And a question that I didn't add in the list that I sent, but I think it's important is how was the impact for you when you move to a new country as well and you learn a new language and you're also a mom and you have two girls as well that they're adults now. So how was that transition for you as a woman of career?
Well, I have a little inside uh, advantage. And I grew up spending summers in Spain. So I was familiar with the culture from a different aspect. I was not so familiar with Madrid, but I had lived in another part of Spain. And I had already grown up speaking not just English, but two others, three languages, three, four languages. So that was not such a big challenge for me. The bigger challenge was energy levels coming from New York City to Madrid in 1988. Seeing Spain from the perspective of Madrid and not the way I had spent it in summer, and then also coming from a very high energy environment, which is, the famous New York minute. Everything has to, you say it, you do it, and it's done. And everything is kind of acceptable too. You're just very high energy. And in Madrid, everything was, for me, felt very sleepy and slow and not dynamic in the sense of, oh, I can go get this job. Because there wasn't that kind of a movement in the job industry either. And so that was a bit of a shock for me, that it was not that easy to go in and be recognized, to have your abilities recognized and have it and get a position that I thought that I was good for, basically because there wasn't a lot of mobility at the time. There wasn't a lot of job mobility, and so it wasn't easy to insert myself into where I wanted to work. It took quite a lot of time. So those were my two frustrations, not having the same kind of boom, 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 like just go and do things, and then the other of not a very slow path to being admitted into the job industry.
Yeah, I think that happened to me as well in Madrid. That's why I wasn't even like a entrepreneur or anything. I say, okay, I don't find a job, I'll just do my own thing. Then it's like, okay, having a business is not as easy as people sometimes make you believe. So tell me what inspired you to focus on outreach and social impact campaigns for documentary film specifically?
That was sort of just serendipity. I was doing what I said, the video marketing. So that little company was also called Mocha. It was called Mocha and Boca. And my sister helped me a couple of times for a couple of videos, and she's the one who's actually trained as a filmmaker. And she was working at the time as a freelance editor, community engagement person, and filmmaker. And so she was back in New York and got hired to do outreach for a film called A Sea Change about climate change and the oceans, ocean acidification and climate change. And as she was working on it, fortunately, also, she was hired before the film was locked. So that was a great opportunity to really build audience and partnerships around the film before it was even done and released. So that was magnificent opportunity. And while she was doing this, building these partnership opportunities and researching where the film would fit in, she found a conference that was going to take place in Barcelona and convinced the filmmakers that I would be the right person to go to that conference and show a short clip of the film and start building partnerships there at the conference, because it was a rotating conference that only would happen every 4 years and in a different city in the world, and it happened to be Barcelona that year. So I went with my laptop and showed the clip and built up some very valuable partnerships that we ended up using throughout the campaign, which lasted with us for 18 months. And the film screened on all the continents and became award-winning, went to festivals, and I stayed on after taking the film to Barcelona, taking that short part of the film to Barcelona. I stayed on the campaign. So we became the sister duo running the outreach for this film, and it just worked really well. So then I had to make a decision. Then there was one of the producers on that film liked our work so much that she hired us for her next 4 films. So it just kind of flowed one thing after another. And at one point I said, oh, okay, I've got to make a decision here. I can't be doing this other, short videos and corporate video and the outreach. So, it was an easy choice because one was paying more and more regularly and was not as, it was definitely outreach and impact work is definitely very detail oriented and a lot of sweat and sitting down at your desk. However, it wasn't the same as filming, editing, distributing, and your own shorts every week. As labor intensive without the revenue. So the choice was pretty easy. And as I said, Angela and I just found that we worked so well together. We were just a good combo. And we were offering our clients something quite unique at the time, remote work. We were working remotely, which was not the case in 2008, not as common. And we were on 2 continents. So we were really offering 24-hour international service, which really benefited us. And so we just kept getting, recommendation referrals, one after another after another. So it was kind of a no-brainer to keep going. And it's been very, very enjoyable. And then Lisa came on just a few years in, and she's in LA. My sister was in New York, then Dallas, now back in Boston. And I've been pretty much fixed in Madrid. And then, that we just made a really good team together. And well,
all the time zones.
And the time
all the time zones.
All the time zones are covered.
It's missing someone in Asia.
Yeah, we had an Australian client once. That was really the challenge,
I can imagine. LA and Australia, they don't mix together. So how do you define impact in the context of film marketing and distribution?
Yes, very good question, because I'm a stickler on this. I do not easily say that we are running an impact campaign. It does not roll off the tongue for every single film. And I will say why. I like to distinguish on our website, but also in conversations with our clients, the difference between outreach and impact. Outreach for us, which is the more common way in which you're going to run a campaign for a documentary film that has a mission and a message, is about raising awareness, about using it as a tool for education or using it as a tool to help move forward the mission of a particular organization or several organizations. So it can be a tool for change, however, in a very different process than impact. Impact for me comes with tangible, perhaps numeric results. So you have very clear objective. You want to change policy, you want to change minds, and you want that to be really visible. So we've worked with films that are with an impact campaign with those kinds of outcomes. You get someone out of jail. You get someone, you get a policy to be pushed through, or you get people to sign, to fill out a survey and say how they feel now after having seen the film as they opposed to before they saw the film. So polls and so forth. There are many other ways in which films have had impact that are us, that not our films, but other films that have really shown impact. And that's how I differentiate. I hope that's clear.
It is clear to me. Just leave your comments if it's not clear to you, the ones that are watching us or listening to us. For filmmakers listening who feel overwhelmed by the idea of building an outreach campaign, where should they begin?
Start thinking about, okay, so outreach, I will repeat, is about partnerships with organizations. It's about thinking about alternative ways in which you want to promote and distribute your film outside of festivals, theatrical, and other traditional forms of release. And when should you start thinking about it? In the moment that you start producing your film, right away. So as you are planning how to get money for, for development, for production, for post-production, etc., start thinking about what you need in your budget and who you need with you as partners regarding outreach. So it has to be concurrent with how you're thinking about your film.
Yes. How do you approach building meaningful partnerships and community relationships around your film?
So what are the goals for your film? What results do you want? And also what is the content of your film? And of course, who is your audience? And once you can define those, they might shift a little bit, but pretty clearly, then you look for, where does your audience hang out? Who serves this audience? What organizations? I mean, one of the things I taught for 3 years. And one of the things that, for me, the basic first lesson was sit down and write, what are the keywords about your film? And then, what are the keywords? My film is about robots. Okay. So, consciousness, sentience, slaves, technology. I mean, what are all the words that could come up around the idea of what is robots, what are robots and what are robotics? Some of them controversial, some of them basic. And then write the list. And then who would be interested in those? Where do those words go? Who uses those words? Who's interested in those topics? That's your audience. Who serves that audience? Those are the organizations that you want to look for. What do those organizations want? What are their goals? Do their goals match what you want to do? Is your film, and this is really important, I think people think about, well, my film is going to be great, everybody's going to love it. And it's actually, who needs it? If you're going to make a documentary film, not a narrative film, because nobody needs to need a narrative film, it's just entertainment potentially at the end of the day. But if you're going to make a documentary film, I understand from my perspective that you have a mission and you have some kind of a message and you want to affect some kind of change, or you want in some way, you'll say, so who needs that? Who agrees with you and could use that film as a tool? Who's this going to benefit? Who is going to, not only the organization, but the people served by the organizations or people in your communities? How will it help them? And I think if you know how you're going to be helpful, then you're more of a winner in that.
I completely agree. I mean, filmmakers, they have an idea, they are worried about producing the idea, but they never think about the target. So who is the audience? Who's gonna need your film? Like, why would they want to choose your film instead of anyone else? So listen up, people. Gwen have some great advice here about how to start taking into account that audience, that people that it's gonna watch your film. So I want to talk about the changes. You've been in the industry for a long time now, and I want to talk about what are the changes you have seen in the outreach and impact producing since you started MocaMedia.
Well, first of all, there's a lot more people in it.
Yeah, that's true.
And,
I don't think
and
it's a lot, but it is true. Now you can find more and more people that is in that space.
well, I am in an association called Global Impact Producers Alliance, and there are 400 people in it. I'm going to say that's a lot. And it's an international organization, and where we're there to uplift and help each other, and also to inform and to be, available to potential clients. So the first thing is that there are a lot more people working or who are saying that they are impact producers. Some of them are first filmmakers, and then having run a campaign for their own film, realize that they have a certain knack and maybe they can help other filmmakers. Others are like me, who started from the ground up in the space, when it was hybrid distribution or community engagement or outreach or all these other terms. And so that's one big change. So there's a lot more people who are working in the space. Another change, and I'm going to say that's in the documentary film business industry in general, that I've noticed is considering more a sensitivity towards um, the subjects who are in the film, especially when we're talking with the films have difficult topics, and how to be more sensitive when you're filming and when you're planning your campaign to what the actual impact can be for the subjects in your film. Not just for the community, yes, also, not just for the organizations, not just for the filmmaker, but whatever you are going to be doing when you run your campaign, how is it going to affect the subjects in the film? This kind of publicity, their participation. In some cases, we're talking about people who may come from very marginalized or delicate situations. So how do you design your campaign and your filmmaking around keeping them safe and also keeping and then they're benefiting in some positive way? So that's something that I've seen as being much more present in, especially even in grant applications and in other information having to do with filmmaking and with outreach, is are you taking into account what is, the benefits or the needs of the people who this film might impact in certain ways?
It's super interesting. I mean, just seeing how has evolutionized the path from uh, years ago.
Mm.
So you've been living in Madrid for a long time, and has this helped you to shape the way you tell stories and connect with audiences?
That's a good question. It's incidental that I've been in Madrid. In other words, I forged a life in Madrid where I actually no longer live full time. I worked full time for many years. I raised my daughters there with their wonderful father. I don't know that has really shaped my storytelling in that, except for saying it was advantageous to be in Europe and to be functioning in several languages. Whereas perhaps if I had stayed in the US, well, it depends. I mean, if I'd stayed in publishing in the US, I would still be functioning in several languages, but not so much on a daily basis. And that functioning in several languages means you're functioning in several cultures. So how does that impact storytelling? Well, you're more in the skin of what each cultural environment needs. And
Yeah,
so you're not just coming from one culture, imposing that culture, or just saying, well, this is how it works here. So I'm gonna, you have more of, okay, that works great in France, but maybe not so much in Spain. So how do you change the way that you present, how does not literally the language, the spoken language, the country language, but also the use of language changes. The way you're going to address people and share and try and convince them to be participatory is going to be different.
Yeah,
Business is just different.
I was thinking just when you said different cultures, for me it's been because I also have lived in Mexico, US, yeah, like five different countries, and that also like impact the way I work. So it just also kind of gives you like more openness
Mhm.
to okay to hear the different points of view and the different point of the different ways they want to do things. And also I think for me it's the way to address it also in business in business meetings, because a Danish person or a Scandinavian person is completely different from an American, then to a Mexican, then to a Spanish person. So it's just it's super interesting when you live in another country and then you adapt to to that culture, and then you start making business, start making like these moves, also like building audiences and understanding them. It's really helpful.
Yes, you really have to be in the skin of the culture. Yes.
Yeah. You're currently working on your own documentary.
Mhm.
What can you share about your journey as a producer now? Because you were doing outreach and marketing, but now you're like actually in the skin of a film producer. And how does it feel to be on the other side?
Daunting. It's daunting, and it's funny. I mean, I have to laugh at myself every day because, I've been working with filmmakers for 20 years almost. And one of the things that I've said to my filmmakers, is how much I admire their tenacity and determination and talent and intelligence and perseverance in the face of, and I've said, you make this extraordinary tool for change, sometimes these absolutely amazing stories. You pull this all together. Sometimes it can take, if some take 2 years, some take 10. And I just said, I admire that so much. I'm never going to do that.
Here you are.
And boom, here I am. And I realized that there's a reason why I admired it and found it daunting, because it's daunting. And my project is little compared to the ones that, I've worked with, that my clients have put together, 90-minute films that have taken years and years, and, following this whole arc of a story for different subjects or a topic. And I'm trying to be pretty modest and quick. And even then, it's still, oh my God, a budget. Oh my God, every step is still slow going. But I'm also excited. I mean, obviously I'm excited, and I'm pursuing what I wanted to pursue, what I set out to do a few years ago. So this is not a spontaneous outcome. It's uh back already in 2018, more or less. I was already not thinking about producing something, but I was already in the track that brought me here, which was the type of research and thinking that I was doing, and wanting to be in certain types of conversation. And so producing the series, it's a documentary series, short series, is my way of being in the conversation of the changes that are taking place in our society. My first thought had been to go back to academia and to pursue another graduate degree, because I thought that's how I'm going to be in the conversation around these topics. However, someone said to me, well, but at your fingertips, you have a camera, you have excellent professionals, this industry, you're going to get in more easily to have these conversations with the people you want to have the conversations with a camera in your hand.
That's true. We don't see the advantage of being working in the film industry.
And
And
you can
sometimes
have more
because
an
we are inside.
impact. You can have more of an impact with video than sitting down and writing a thesis.
That's true.
So I thought, okay, that is true.
I'm doing it. We had the opportunity to work together in different ways over the years. What has that collaboration been like for you? And what stands out about our work together?
Well, it's always been full of energy, both yours and mine put together. It's always been a pleasure. And I mean, my first recollection is that I don't even know how you found me. I think you found me.
Yes, I do
And
remember it was a connection through Candy. I think it was Candy.
okay, through
You're
Candy,
friends.
that makes sense.
You're friends with Candy.
Yes, yes,
Yes, yeah, yeah. So I was in the beginning, moving around and I'm doing this and in films and da da da. And, oh, I have a friend. She's doing this and she's very busy, but maybe you can have a coffee. And I think I even remember we had tea.
yes.
We drink a tea.
And I remember where we were. It was in the Barrio de Salamanca. I
Yeah.
remember this. Yes, yes. So I remember that, and I was trying to be helpful, and that you came, you were ready to, take on Madrid, which was, I know the feeling. And and I did the best I could to try and be helpful and answer your questions and be available. That was the beginning. However, later on, you were really helpful with me because in your marketing, you went into web design and SEO. And at a time when we needed to renew our website, there was like I realized, oh, all the things that I'm doing and advising my clients to do, I am not doing in my own business. And it was time to revamp our website. It was time to actually market our work and have a deeper presence online. And that was extremely helpful. You helped to redesign our website and to give it strong SEO, and that really helped.
You are
And
fundable on the internet.
hmm, I
You
was,
were
yes.
fundable on the internet. I have to say that SEO has advanced so much that now the little tricks that you do, like SEO, things that you do back then, it doesn't help you now.
No,
You
no,
need
it's a whole
like
different ballgame now,
it's a
but
like completely different. Now people is trying to figure out how to get into the results of AI
of
because
course,
now AI is recommending people. So it's like how do I get in there? It's like
yes.
SEO, forget it. Now it's like how do I do AI recommend my services instead of the competition?
Yep. It's a
So
different ballgame now.
yeah, exactly. So I think
But it was great then. It was very useful
I
then.
mean, it's a beautiful website. You can go there. It's still functional. I don't know if you had changed anything.
We've changed again a little
You change,
bit.
okay, you change
Yes,
it
yes.
again. And so tell us from this conversation we have had together, what would be your advice for filmmakers that are out there trying to figure out the documentary they're producing, but they also need to think about outreach, marketing, and impact? What would be your advice to them?
Well, certainly if, hmm, I mean, my first advice is the one I gave before, which was think about how to fit all that into your budget and what the cost would be to have to work in to add
You can
marketing.
repeat it again and again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They need to drill it in their drill it
Yeah.
in their brains.
Make sure it's part of your budget when you're asking for grant funding. And so look at what the cost would be, whether you're going to run the campaign yourself or whether you're going to hire someone. So find out what that cost would be for marketing and outreach. On the one, that's one thing. And I'm gonna do a shout out actually to a colleague in the documentary film industry who's done a gorgeous template. His name is Robert Bahar. I'm actually using his template right now for my own work. And he also runs workshops using the template. It's a 3 hour workshop where he's broken it down into all the parts that you can possibly think of in terms of how the film is made, and also like the big picture, the plan A, the all the parts of every aspect, including marketing, distribution, outreach, impact, blah blah blah, at the end of the template, so that it's already incorporated from the beginning, from the get-go, because and then you can partition it according to where you're asking, at what point, what stage you are in your fundraising, and who you're asking your funds from. So I would recommend that, and I'm happy to share the link to the website where it can be accessed. It's on the IDA website, including instructions by Robert about how to use it. And potentially he's going to be giving more workshops. I've already attended his
Maybe we
workshop,
should
and
bring him into the
that
podcast so he
that is
can.
absolutely, and I mean, excellent. That was one excellent resource that I would recommend. So right in your budget, think about it. And then, as I mentioned earlier, think about who's going to be on the journey with you, not just the crew, not just the subjects in the film, but who could be potential partners with you. And partnership opportunities have so many different shapes and forms. It could be people who are just going to be your fan base, your encourager, people who are encouraging you, but also organizations, institutions, small businesses, who are not necessarily going to fund anything, but who are you might want to work with them to fundraise together. You might want to work with them to support their mission with your film. You might be interviewing people from that organization. You might be shaping parts of your film that then they can use. You can be thinking later on of how, what your screening strategy with them would be, and they can start using parts of your film already to speak with their members, their audiences, their communities, whatever the shape of that partnership is in that organization. So I feel like, that's not a cost necessarily for anyone, but it is a value for everyone.
Yeah, I completely agree. Partnerships with this is not only for documentaries, but for films, like having partnerships with different associations, companies, brands. It is always helpful because they can help you. Maybe they won't fund your film, but maybe they can give a shout out, like talk about it, engage with their community. They already have a following. They already have an existing audience that can be your audience too.
And think that your crew are also your partners, and they have beyond them potential partners. Think that your subjects are your partners, and they have beyond them potential partners. So you really are, creating already a kind of an ecosystem around the film that
Like a startup.
that will get strong as, will help it be stronger as you go.
That's true. Where we are ending our interview. Thank you so much for being here. As the last question, where can people connect with you, follow your work, or reach out to collaborate?
So email is moca@mocamedia.tv, and that's MOCA media.tv. The website is mocamedia.tv, MOCA media.tv. And I am also on LinkedIn as Gwendolyn Alston. I am considering where I would be on social media right now beyond LinkedIn. So yes, we have a presence on Blue Sky, but it's not an active presence right now. So we're doing like many people, reconsidering where we are in the social media scape.
Yeah, and it's completely valid. We will share the link to your website in the description of this episode. If you want to contact Gwen, you know where to find her. And thank you so much for another episode. Thank you, Gwen, for being here,
Thank
and
you, Rosa.
see you next time.
Okay, bye.